Welcome to That's Anita Live, the talk show dedicated to providing emotional healing through sharing to help you create a happier life. Have you ever had a problem finding the just right, perfect words to say, to express what you're feeling? My guest today is an expert in communications. She's here to teach us how to get what we want in our relationships. Winter Harris is an experienced communications professional with a weekly relationship show called The Winter Harris Show. Welcome, Winter, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming out. Relationships.
Yes.
Why are they so difficult?
Well, people are human. I don't think it's that they're difficult.
Okay.
It's just that people have different experiences, and anytime that you blend different experiences together, you're going to get challenges. So they're not difficult. You're just dealing with different experiences, and that can always be a challenge.
Because what we say is never what they hear.
And often, yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I think too, we also filter through our experiences.
Okay.
We filter through how we've handled things in the past. We filter through our trauma. So we just never know, even though we may intend for things to come out one way, depending on the person you're talking to, due to their experiences, they may not hear it how you said it. So
They never hear it the way. So we filter through our trauma.
Yes.
Let's dig into that one a little bit.
Absolutely.
What did you mean by that?
So depending, let's talk about a person who experienced an abusive household.
Okay.
So they may struggle with a person like me who's very jovial and expressive and can get kind of loud. That may put them off, even though I may say certain things like, oh, well, I don't really like that shirt. That may have screamed, I dislike your shirt and I dislike you. You have horrible taste.
Okay.
I didn't say that. But because of that trauma and that abusive experience, they may interpret it that way. So we really have to get to know our partner and who we're dealing with, and we have to understand their experiences and be open to communicating that.
Honey, getting to know the partner. Now that is a mouthful. Because in 2019, people are moving lightning fast in these relationships. They meet on Wednesday, by Friday they moved in together.
So true.
And I'm sitting listening to the conversation going, you did what?
Right.
Why are we so, is it hungry, anxious, trusting? What is it?
Mixture of all of that.
Okay.
I mean, we're so anxious too because of the social media age. Everyone's quick to post it on Instagram. They want to show off their new babe. You know, seriously. I mean, that drives the need to kind of fast forward things a lot quicker than they should. And so that pressure, that peer pressure, that societal pressure to feel like you are complete, because we preach that we're not complete until we're with someone. Yeah. We can't find wholeness within ourselves.
Which is
so that, and we know that's not true,
wrong,
but
right.
we know that because we're a little bit more seasoned and experienced and we've gone through some life. The younger generation, they don't know that yet. They haven't figured out that you really can be, secure within yourself. You don't require, necessarily the security of another human being to experience that. So until they get to that place, you're going to continue to see this trend of kind of jumping at lightning speed, fast forward. And unfortunately, because of social media, we even have older people who are going backwards.
Yes, because what is this about the takeoff of all of these apps and websites for seniors today?
Absolutely.
Where is the nana that always had food on the stove and had the rocking chair on the porch and the cool breeze? What happened?
It's social media. It's how we're a social media society.
Whoa.
Everything's instant. Communication is instant.
It is.
Pictures posting. We don't have to wait until the film gets developed. We can post a picture right away.
Because we're not fanning the Polaroid.
We're not waiting for it to cool down and take a picture of that and then later post it or upload it on a PC to get it posted to our family and friends. So we're seeing a huge trend of the older generation even go through divorces. Like typically they would just stay married a lot longer and they're choosing to leave these marriages after 25, 30 years because of the way our society is now. Everything's microwave. We don't want to work for anything. We don't want to take the time that it really takes to really invest into our relationships because of these apps we can swipe and find someone new.
And it happens just that quickly.
Absolutely.
So let's get into what are the top 3 best ways to communicate so that you get what you want and you're happy with what you get.
So top 3 ways. Let's start with number 1. Let's make sure we know what we want. Sometimes we don't always come to the table actually clear on what it is that we want.
Yeah.
I even tell people that when they're looking for a partner. Know what you want and be clear on that. It's not okay to say tall, dark, and handsome. There's plenty of people
And
that
rich.
and rich, right? What kind of rich? No. But there's plenty of people that meet that criteria. Really think about it. Think about what it is that you want. Not only what you want, but what you need. And sometimes we can always communicate our wants, but we don't always know how to communicate our needs.
Yeah.
So let's understand what it is that we want. Number 2, be prepared to listen. Communication is mostly listening if we want it to be effective. State what you want, but then be prepared to listen and give the other person the opportunity to speak back and really hear. We said this before the show,
right?
Hear to understand instead of just talking to be understood. And that's huge for a lot of people.
Okay, now let's back up.
Yes.
And dig into number 1 a little bit and then mix in 2.
Okay.
Because a person really has to be self-aware
Yes.
in order to be able to state what they need.
Yes.
What is a way that someone can learn themselves so that they can state what they need?
So I'm a huge proponent of finding someone you trust, be it a therapist, a good friend that's honest with you, someone to really bounce off and help you talk through what it is that you need. Sometimes we're not always our best barometer. We just are going to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt.
Right, every time.
Every single time. So find someone that you really can talk to and be honest with, so they can give you an honest, they can be a mirror, so to speak. So be a mirror, really provide that reflection of just understanding, but also honesty. So you can really come to the crux of what it is that you're asking for and what it is that you need.
Because you want tall, dark, handsome, muscular, and rich. But what you really need is dependable.
Loyalty, faithfulness. I mean, there's so many things.
Right.
Hard worker, committed. There are a lot of people who make money. I see this all the time in DC.
Okay.
It's a very affluent area.
Yes.
So you can find a tall, dark, and handsome with money. But is he faithful? Is he loyal? Is he dependable? Is he a good communicator?
Can he be honest?
Can he be honest? Has he worked through his own emotional issues? Can he be emotionally available? Sometimes men aren't the best at being emotionally available. They can listen, but they're not listening.
Okay, and that rolls into your number 2.
Yes.
Where you seek to understand before being understood.
Absolutely.
Do you right now, in pop culture, Miss Wendy Williams is going through a nasty divorce after over 20 years of marriage.
Yes.
Do you feel as if that had some play in?
Oh goodness, poor Wendy.
But I mean, there are so many of us that are sitting back, that are grown,
Yes.
and have seen this play out a number of times in other people's relationships, that are sitting back and going, "Oh, girl, finally, we are so happy you are ready to file that paperwork." Because this relationship that he's had on the side has been going on for years.
Quite some time. But I think too, we have to understand she's a public figure.
Yes.
And they have a lot of businesses that are intertwined.
Yes.
And so it's kind of like the old song, "It's cheaper to keep her."
All right, Johnny Taylor.
Seriously, I think in this instance, it was cheaper to keep him.
Okay.
But
Boom.
we don't always take into account publicity and things coming out and being very public. I think she knew under wraps, and that was perfectly fine as long as it was under wraps.
Right.
But when you bring that out for the world to judge, that's a special kind of embarrassment.
Then when you start building a family.
Absolutely. That's, I've been there. I've honestly been
Girl.
there. And so I can completely relate. My heart goes out to her, and I think I just sighed a complete sigh of relief when she finally filed for divorce, because I'm like, what took you so long? And do you need me to call you and talk you through it? No. But definitely, it's a struggle. And I think too, anytime you give the outside, public opinion,
Yes.
access to your life and access to your relationship, you're gonna get all sorts of, unnecessary feedback. Judgment is huge.
Yes, especially now. Popular opinion is quickly becoming a court of law.
Yes. It is a court of law.
Whether it's just or not.
It doesn't have to be just. People just want to get their opinion out. They haven't considered that she has a whole son that's definitely going to be impacted, that now has a half sibling that's on the horizon. So we are not even taking that into account, that there's so many people that are going to be impacted by the situation outside of just the person we see on a talk show day in and day out. That it amazes to me. I think social media has also really dehumanized people. So we're not as compassionate.
Nope.
We're not as understanding.
Nope.
And it really does play into our communication. People would rather hide behind a keyboard than to actually have a conversation face to face with a person they have an issue with. They would rather post an off-putting or subliminal post rather than just go to the person and talk to them, work out whatever issue you have, talk it out, and then come back and be normal. But that's not how we do things these days. It's sad. It's really sad. And I think for as much as social media is great and wonderful and has allowed us the opportunity to really connect with people from all over the world,
yes,
it has also made us dummies in the realm of communication. We don't really know how to communicate anymore. And it's sad. We have to communicate in order to have effective and healthy relationships.
We'll be right back with number 3 from Winter, and we'll get into some of the hot topics from her radio show. And we're back with Ms. Winter Harris discussing communications in relationships. Yes. And we did number 1 and number 2.
Yes.
Number 3 is?
So seeking to understand before you wait to be understood. So active listening and nonverbal communication.
Nonverbal. That's a hot one.
It is a hot one because we actually communicate mostly with our nonverbal communication. So I always tell people, are you looking to light a candle or are you looking to burn your house down? And I have to give that interpretation because we don't always realize that when we approach a person with something we want to communicate or discuss, we have to be aware of what we're actually communicating. And sometimes our nonverbal communication can really set the tone. So if I come in and the situation is tense and I want to talk to someone and they sit down, and their heart is probably racing because they can already feel your body language is, oh goodness, is she about to light a candle? Or is she about to burn a house down? And this is very prevalent with breakups. So I always tell couples when I coach them, how do you want this to end? Especially if I'm talking to the party who wants to do the breaking up. How do you want this to end? Amicably or police being called? Because how you approach the situation is really going to control how that comes across. And not everyone deals with rejection well.
Okay.
And so how you communicate nonverbally really can put them at ease before you get into something that is, can be as devastating as a breakup. So I tell them, smile, sit up straight, make sure you're pleasant when they enter the room. Don't enter the room with an attitude. Stop. Your face all torn.
Right.
People automatically can assume how you're feeling based off your facial expression. I'm a person that smiles 90% of the time. If something's wrong with my face, something's wrong. Like, it really has to be bad for me not to smile. I'll smile while I'm hurting. That's just me, but not everybody is like that.
Right, because I'm the opposite. My face is usually a frown most of the time. And it's not that I'm feeling bad or anything on the inside. It's just that I make facial expressions as I think. And not necessarily am I thinking about what's going on around me. I could be in a wild party, but my mind could be on something that I'm supposed to be working on. Or I'm going through the list of my to-dos that I need to get home and get done.
Right. It depends on the person. It's definitely personal, but when you're in a relationship and you're trying to communicate effectively, nonverbal communication means a lot. So I always tell my clients, be mindful of your nonverbal communication, especially if you're trying to communicate something that's hard to talk about. That's going to go a long way in kind of making the atmosphere conducive to having a good conversation versus an argument.
Okay, so set a professional tone when it may be a difficult topic to discuss.
That's going to make it
Set a professional tone.
tremendously easier to address something that's really hard, especially when it comes to maybe men. I'll use men, and my male audience that's watching this is probably going to be like, you were hard on the men today. I'm not hard on you guys. It's just true. So for men, they don't necessarily always like to talk about the hard things.
No.
And so how you come into that situation is going to either make it easier or harder for them to kind of loosen up and engage in the conversation or completely shut down. And that's just how they deal. They don't like it. They'd rather keep everything light and airy because they enjoy an atmosphere of peace. We know that about men. For the most part, they just want to do what they do, come home, go to sleep, maybe play video games if that's something that they're into, or watch sports.
Right. He doesn't want to walk. He doesn't want to walk in the door to first of all.
Exactly.
He just opened the door.
Or think about the nonverbal communication. He comes in, you're slamming dishes, tossing his keys at him. Like, that means something to
Okay, and then the reverse, right? If he comes home and he doesn't talk all evening.
Absolutely. That's so huge. And I tell my male clients, you got to give her a little something. Give her a cracker. You may not be able to give her a whole meal, but give her a cracker. Women love to communicate and talk. That's how we process. We process through talking, men process through silence. And that's typically how there's exceptions to every rule, but generally that is how it goes. And so I tell men, I don't want to talk when I get home. Well, that's how she processes her day. So give her 5 minutes and then say, babe, I'm going to go take my time and relax. And she'll be more willing to give you that time to relax if you've actually taken the time to listen and allow her to talk and process. That's just how we're wired, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. And so it's just better if we develop the skills to really, cope and get through our relationships, and it actually will make the relationship more pleasant. And so I'll find men that'll say, she won't let me just watch my game in peace. And I'll say, well, did you ever talk to her when you came in? He'll say, well, no, I'll do that after the game is over. I'm like, no. You would help your game go by a lot smoother if you would just give her that 5 to 10 minutes of talking time, so then you can go enjoy your game in peace. And so I had a client call me back. He was like, it worked. I'm like, go figure. Go figure. Let that woman talk, and then you can go do what you want to do.
Winter Harris Show.
Yes.
What are some of your hot topics that you talk about in your show?
Oh my gosh, we talk about everything. We have such a good time on my pages, like not even during the show, but even just on my social media pages. I love to post questions of the day. And so a couple of questions that were posted this week. One guy actually went to meet his girlfriend's parents, and he met the mom and dad. He said they were a very loving couple. Fast forward, he goes and hangs out with his friends. And one of his friends starts bragging about this lady that he's met. And so he says he shows a picture. The picture was not appropriate, and it was of his girlfriend's mom.
Wow.
And he wanted to know.
Welcome to 2019.
Welcome to 2019. He wanted to know, should he tell his girlfriend or not? And so I posted that question on my page. I don't know how many hundreds of comments that particular question had, but people gave great advice from their point of view. A lot of people said, don't say anything, that it was not his place. He didn't want to get in the middle of that because it may be that the daughter knew already, or it could be devastating to her, and he shouldn't put his girlfriend in a situation where she would have to basically go confront her mom. And so they said, just take it to your grave and let it ride.
Whoa.
That's some of the things we talk about on my show. The one I posted yesterday, a young lady wrote in, and she wanted to get a massage. Her husband handled all the finances. Okay. And so she wanted to get a massage. Typically, he would give her an allowance, but this particular time, she wanted a little bit more for her allowance because she wanted to get...
Push pin.
Yes.
He would give her an allowance?
True story.
Why? In 2019?
In 2019. He gave her an allowance.
They're both working?
They're both working. She contributes to the household, but he manages all the finances. And so he distributes an allowance to her once he pays the bills.
Ouch.
Yes.
Okay.
And so she actually categorized it as a way of being submissive. It was her way to be submissive in the relationship.
It works for their household, so.
Right, to each his own.
That's right.
And so she asked for a little bit more money for a massage. He told her no. And she really got upset, so that prompted her to post the question on my page. And she said she stopped payment on her direct deposit for her own paycheck. She wasn't going to deposit any more of her funds because she found out that she couldn't even withdraw it from the savings account because her name was not on it. And so she wanted to know what my audience thought about
So all this time, listen, because let me frame this.
Yes.
All this time, she has been putting money into the household, which goes into the household bills and into the savings account.
Yes.
And she does not have access to the savings account.
Correct.
At all.
At all.
And we have no idea how many years this has been
married.
transparent.
She did say they were newlyweds, so I'm assuming they've been married a year, less than a
Okay,
year.
so hopefully somewhere between 1 and 3 years.
Right.
All right, so.
1 and 3 years. But depending on how much you're
Wow.
contributing, I mean, it's a massage. It's not like she asked for a new car. So yeah, she can't access the money. Her name is not on the account. So my followers had a field day.
I know they did.
A field day.
I know they
With
did.
that particular question. That got hundreds of comments, and it's been shared. I don't even know. One of my questions of the days ended up on the Shade Room. That was a highlight. I had celebrities sharing the questions, but I can't remember what the topic was, and that's terrible. But so that was a highlight of my questions of the day. But the show is so much fun. I have other relationship-centered guests, and so we just hammer out all sorts of topics. Communication is a huge one. Dealing with in-laws is always a great one because that's a huge impact on
Now,
relationships.
what about blended families?
Blended families are another one. We just had a couple on in February who was blended. And so it was such a beautiful story, too. A lot of traction on that particular show because they were just such a loving couple, but also very transparent in the challenges that a lot of blended couples face. But it was great. We talk about there's nothing that's off topic.
It sounds like it.
No, there's nothing that's off base, but I try to reel it in because I have a very diverse audience. My audience is 54% men. So I have a very large male following, and I have to keep that under control on social media because you get trolls and they can be inappropriate, and that's not my show. I'm an adult family friendly show.
Right.
My mom follows me, so I always try to be respectful, and I don't want her to call me and be like, Winter.
Now, what does your mom think of the senior dating scene?
So my mom is actually in the senior dating scene. She doesn't like it at all. Oh goodness, she cracks me up. I think too, you have to understand, she's in the 60, going to the 60 range. And so she was married to my father for 27 years. So she was married for 27 years. They got a divorce. And so she was new into the dating scene. She actually remained single for about 8 years. Yeah, 8 years after their divorce. And really had no interest, but got into the dating apps and met a gentleman. My mom is terrible about actually going on the dates. She likes to keep it on the app.
Just a little bit of attention, but I don't want you in my space.
Exactly. And so she always calls me for advice, which is so funny. And I think it's a huge compliment when your own mom will actually say, hey, I need to know what you think about this situation. But she says it's definitely changed because people are so free these days with the whole moving in right away or moving at lightning speed. And she said, my goal, I've always been taught to marry or court for marriage. And so for people that just kind of want to date and move on, she's like, what is that about? Like, I am not interested in just being a, one night stand or anything like that. And I said, Mom, you just have to really vet people these days. Like, it's no different. But,
it is. It's very... And I am not in the senior dating scene, but what I see, it just makes my skin crawl.
It should.
It's so odd.
It should. Social media has kind of removed the veil of distance, like proximity. I don't have to be limited to men in my city. I can date literally all over the world if I want to, thanks to social media and apps and internet.
I don't think there is any courting anymore. Remember when the man had to come to the house and then they had to sit on the porch for 3 or 4 months before he actually got to take her out on a date?
Yes.
I don't think that no longer exists anywhere in the world.
And it's changed a lot too. There's so many different opinions on what courting is and what courting isn't. You have the Christian version, you have the, old school version that has nothing to do with Christianity whatsoever, but it's just so much out there that people just kind of do what they want to do. It's kind of like, I don't know where to start, so I'll just do what I want to do and let the chips fall where they may.
Where is this going to go?
I think we will find that the divorce rate will either go away because people are just going to not respect the institution of marriage as much anymore.
Okay.
Or the divorce rate is going to continue to increase.
Wow.
That's what I think.
Communicating our wants and needs is all about patience and perspective. If you love someone, as Winter said, take the time to listen and seek to understand before trying to be understood. To reach out to Winter, find her on Instagram at Harris Winter. I'm Anita, your host. Be sure to check out that'sanitalive.com for where and when to see our next episode.